Recording in progress. Place.
We're ready.
All right, very good.
Golfing like 20 minutes ago.
Good evening. Welcome to the April 15th, 2024 regularly scheduled work session. Tonight, there are 4 items on the agenda. Public comment is allowed that is germane to an agenda item. If you wish to speak, you are required to fill out a public comment card. And if you are speaking on behalf of an organization, you must fill out an affidavit that you have the authority of said organization. Please remember that this is not a time to engage the mayor or members of the city council in conversation. When your name is called, please come forward and speak into the microphone, stating your name and address for the record. Public comment will be allowed for a total of 10 minutes per agenda item and no more than 2 minutes per person. Once the item is called, no other public cards will be accepted. Will the city clerk sound agenda item A?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem. That first item A is the capital improvement element amendment overview. Miss Jackie Lim.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Tonight's presentation is the second part of a 3-part work session that we have prepared for Council regarding the impact fee amendment program. Just a short recap. I'll show you a slide. Screen.
There it goes.
Oh, here we go. So just a short recap. Our first work session took place last month, March 11. Our consultant provided a overview of what an impact fee program is, why are we amending it, and she also identified and explained the different components that comprises an impact fee. And tonight, for the second part of the 3-part work session, we're going to talk more about the capital improvements element, which she's going to talk about in detail shortly. And then lastly, we come back next month for our last work session. And this time, we're going to talk more about the impact fee ordinance as well as the impact fee schedule. So that's it. Ms. Paige Hatley.
Thank you, Jackie, and good evening. My name is Paige Hatley with Hatley Plans, part of the Ross Associates team that's been working with the city to update its impact fee program. Some of these slides just may look a little bit familiar relative to the last time I was before you a few weeks back, but we're going to focus a little bit more, as Jackie mentioned, specifically on the phase that we're in right now that relates to the capital improvements element. So the next few slides provide an overview of the process to amend the city's CIE, capital improvements element, which is the official document that identifies future parks, roads, police, and fire projects that are eligible for impact fee funding. The CIE is currently in place, was adopted in 2015. At that time, a development impact fee ordinance was adopted. Now together, those two pieces allowed the city to begin collecting impact fees from new development to help fund capital projects and expand public services needed to serve a growing population. Now, CIE is mandated by the state, so it is required of any community that wants to adopt or maintain an impact fee program. It has to be created and maintained in accordance with rules and regulations that are administered by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, or DCA. It's an element of a community's comprehensive plan, and it focuses specifically on long-range public facility project needs. Adoption of a CIE amendment will automatically amend a comprehensive plan at the time that the CIE amendment itself is approved. And it also will amend a community's impact fee program. It does not, however, address or change the impact fees themselves. Instead, it's the impact fee ordinance that's the mechanism for adopting a new fee schedule that establishes how much can be collected from each new development. For Milton, the CIE lists projects that are eligible for impact fee funding in 4 public facility categories, as mentioned: parks, roads, fire, and police. Generally, the projects in a CIE expand the inventory of the types of facilities that are already in place. The idea being that additional similar facilities will be needed to serve the population over the coming decades. The CIE also includes a 5-year community work program to highlight those projects that are anticipated to come online in the next 5 years or in the near future. As presented during the last work session on this topic, there are multiple steps of an impact fee program update, and the CIE is, I just want to remind everyone, is the only component that requires review and approval by DCA. The prescribed process to adopt or amend the CIE is to first have a public hearing to receive any comments on the draft document, after which City Council authorizes transmittal of the draft document for state review. These items are scheduled for next Monday's meeting. Upon approval by DCA, the city can adopt the new CIE. This allows the city to spend impact fees on an updated list of projects and also provides an updated community work program for 2025 to 2029, which will be utilized in an annual report that's also required of impact fee communities. I just want to note that each year the city submits a CIE annual update, as we call it, an annual update, which includes a financial report and a 5-year community work program that drops off a year and then adds an additional year to keep that 5-year work program current. Now, while there's no deadline for amending a CIE, which is the full complete update of the CIE document that we're currently undertaking, there is a deadline for communities to submit and adopt their annual update report. And for Milton, that deadline is October 31st. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit more in the summer after we prepare the annual update, because it needs to be transmitted in August to maintain the adoption schedule for that maintenance requirement. But I just bring it up because I want to highlight the relationship between what we're doing with the overall CIE amendment and a piece, specifically the 5-year work program, that we're going to be utilizing so the city can maintain its QLG status by adopting an updated annual report. Beyond the CIE, there's a process for amending the impact fee ordinance, which contains the current fee schedule. So we've got another work session, as Jackie noted, in May to discuss the prospective fees themselves, and information will be provided to you in advance of that meeting to aid in that discussion. Amending the ordinance requires 2 public hearings in accordance with state law prior to adoption. So as last time, that was an overview of the overall process. Today, we're highlighting and giving a sneak preview of the fact of the process that we have to follow for amending the CIE and ultimately adopt a new project list of impact fee eligible projects. So next week is what's immediately coming on tap. But of course, I'll be happy to take questions on the process or the CIE document itself that's in your packet.
I just want to jump in quick before you ask any questions. So just to kind of recap, simpler for council. So what happens is the staff goes around, Jackie goes and discusses with each department that is eligible for impact fees and says, what projects would you like on your list that we can then put on the CIE? Because if the project isn't on the CIE list, and we can't utilize impact fee funds towards that project. So our last CIE list, when I've reviewed it, most of the projects on that list, we have been very successful and implemented. So it's although there's no set time on when we should, as a city, keep updating the CIE list of projects, it is appropriate to do it at this time because most of the other projects have been, like I said, successfully completed, and we did use impact fee funds towards it. So we go to each department, they give us a list of potential projects, which are the projects you're going to look at tonight. That's what you're going to be approving, that list of projects. Once we get that project list approved, then we can start utilizing impact fee funds towards those particular projects. Now, Paige is saying that there's also a part 2, which is when we do this, we could look at it and then say, do you want to consider with the studies that we did, what recommendation they have towards what the new impact fee amount should be. So that would be the next meeting. So we're not going to be discussing what the if there's any changes or what that amount should be or how we're justifying those numbers. Tonight is really just going to be on this master list, which we call the CIE, to go over that list to ensure that those are the projects that we would be utilizing impact fees for. Now, she also mentioned, I just 101 it, right, that every year we go back to DCA and we say, these are the projects that we have on our list. This is how much money we utilize for each project, and this is how we're executing the utilization of those funds towards the CIE list. So that's what we do yearly, just to give them a yearly update. So that's what you'll see in August. She'll come back and say, yes, we're using the funds correctly. This is what we used it for. This is how we did it. But tonight's is important in a sense that I want the council to understand that the CIE list is sort of my master road map that says these are the funds. So in the future, if you say, oh, there's another project we'd like to do, oh, geez, Bob, it's not on the CIE list, we really can't take the money that we have in the impact fee accounts and start applying it towards that project, unless we amend the list. Just so.
Bob, question on that. So what you're saying is be more inclusive with the list such that we could fund it. But and I think I asked this last time, it's a finite dollar amount, right? And so is it a matter of the city prioritizing which projects we fund and which ones we do not? Because we may have projects on there, right, that exceed the amount that we're ultimately given, I think, right? So it is a prioritization effort.
Not with, so the CIE, it's just a little bit of clarity, hopefully, and Bob does a better job of distilling things and really getting to the point, but I just want to revisit about the projects and what you see for each of the public facility categories. One, as mentioned in the slideshow, we look at what you currently have in your system. And the assumption is that if we've got fire trucks and playgrounds, et cetera, serving people today, we're going to need the same type of facilities to serve folks tomorrow. And so we look at what is the level of service currently. So how much does every resident get now? What's their piece of the pie of that fire truck? And then we apply that to anticipated growth over the next 20 years to say, okay, based on new folks and businesses coming in, we're looking at X additional fire trucks that would be needed. So we take that in terms of what the numbers tell us with projected growth, but we also marry that with what Bob is also getting to with the department level basis. What are adopted plans, transportation plan, parks plan? What have been adopted plans that also inform and tell us what project recommendations and project needs are? And then we ground truth that with the departments to say, hey, is there anything in the parks plan, for example, maybe a particular type of amenity that doesn't exist and it wasn't in the parks plan, but we know that it's a growing trend. And so let's account for that in our impact fee program so that it can be added to as new folks are coming online. So where the finite dollars comes in is we're really anything with dollars and cents in the CIE is we're just trying to say, what's it going to cost? What are these project costs? And ultimately, at the end of it all, when we meet again to talk about the fee setting, the methodology report that was mentioned in the previous presentation calculates what's the maximum fee that could be charged to help pay for these list of projects based on their cost. Now, that's where we're going to get to the point of you can adopt whatever up to that fee. We know that costs change. We just have to have cost estimates at a certain point in time. But while that can change, once you set your fee, that's what ends up being capped. You can't exceed that,
Right.
whatever it is. So it may not pay for everything. But at the same time, we're looking ahead 20 years. This isn't a plan. We're not prescribing to say this is your plan. This is reviewed on an annual basis through the annual update process, and during the annual budgeting process. Well, where are priorities? Where are needs? Where's funding available? And so as long as you're referring back to the baseline master project list, then you can pull from that each year to say, oh, okay, I think there's funding now for this particular project, understanding that with what's in the coffers with impact fees may not pay for something in its totality, but it's a funding source that can be considered during the budgeting process.
Got it.
I'm sorry, that was
No, that was super helpful.
a long one there.
That was helpful.
And
Thank you.
remember
But it
that
generated
only
additional
new-
questions. It sounds like there's certain items that are mandatory to be on the list, or is that not correct? Like you mentioned fire trucks. So is that always on the list? Are there certain items that are always on the list that we always have to fund versus, I don't know, a park or something that we don't have yet that we don't necessarily have to fund?
So that's a great question because there are certain types of projects that can only be funded with impact fees. So we're looking at buildings is most common, building expansion, addition, anything that's increasing square footage because it's all about adding capacity. And then heavy vehicles is quite common. And the vehicle and any capital project has to have a service life of at least 10 years. So that's what the state guidelines tell us. If for vehicles, for example, it has to have a service life of at least 10 years. So what does that mean? Well, that's most common, fire apparatus and any other heavy specialized vehicle. And then providing the services through parks, police, fire, that is accommodated through most often either the parks components or brick and mortar. Impact fees cannot pay for staffing. Impact fees cannot pay for equipment, typical equipment like computers, nor can they pay for maintenance. So we're looking at true capital projects, most commonly road improvements that expand capacity, so road widenings, anything that can accommodate additional flow, not filling potholes, parks components, playgrounds, buildings, trails, and then for fleet, police, and fire, it's represented most often in terms of buildings and heavy vehicles. Land acquisition, anything from A to Z on a project, so design phase, right-of-way acquisition, everything can be included. But there are certain things that cannot, as mentioned, like staffing and maintenance. So we're more of working within, well, what can't we do? Instead of saying, well, we have to do this, such as fire trucks. That's just the most common representation of an impact fee used for fire.
How much do we get on average each year to spend from impact fees?
So part A to that answer is the fee that is collected, let's say from a single family home, it is divvied up into each of those four categories as well as administration. There's a 3% administration fee as allowed per state law. Now, that then goes into individual funds, and it depends because one fee for one category may be higher than another category. And so one category may get more of the impact fee than another. And we don't know at the end of the day what those collections would look like. But as far as actual numbers, I'll pivot to Bob. I don't know if we have an annual report to
I
show.
can get that.
I don't, as far as what was
Paige, I can
collected
get
last year's. Oh, Bernadette, yes, of course, of
I
course.
got you, Paige. So last year in FY23, we collected about $830,163 in total, including interest on those earnings. And the year before that was up around $971,450. So last year was one of our lower years than it has been. And again, as Paige mentioned, the majority of that is currently in our parks fund. Can I add one more small thing that might help?
Please, yes.
So we have historically had way more projects than we've had impact fee dollars. So our impact fee dollars actually just go to offset and help us not have the whole burden of the cost of that project with PAYGO funding, or can offset some of that PAYGO funding portion is how we always kind of look at it.
Thank you. I forgot Bernadette's been around since we've been doing this from the get-go, so it's an excellent resource.
Thank you.
And remember, it's only new residents, new houses that come in.
Right.
So if you have an existing house on a lot, you demolish the house and you build a new house on the lot, it's not subject to an impact fee.
Right.
It's just newly created.
Residential and commercial. New construction, residential and commercial.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Right.
It'd have to be a new.
Okay.
Any other questions? Madam City Clerk, any public comment?
There are none, ma'am.
All right. Will the city
Thank you.
clerk sound?
very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Will the city clerk sound agenda item B?
Item B is the Windward Highway 9 Area Strategic Master Plan discussion. Our Community Development Director, Mr. Bob Buscemi.
Good evening, council. I just want to introduce the team that's been working on this and let the council know that we've been working on sort of a part 2 of this master plan, which I'll be presenting to you the information on that at next meeting, at your next meeting next week. And it's kind of exciting because I know we've done this plan and we've looked at this as like an informational fact and finding plan and getting like sort of a menu of ideas and see what the corridor is. We did do it in conjunction with the CIE and it's called True North. I'm sorry, I don't use the wrong words. True North and the city of Alpharetta. So it's kind of a joint plan that was limited to some area, but we're expanding that area, and I'll show you that next week. We're expanding it to the whole Deerfield area, and we're going to really look at compiling all the data and all the plans that we have and really create more of a visual document for the council to see. I don't want to give away my presentation next week, but I'm going to tell you, we'll be sitting in a car, you'll be driving, and you'll actually see what it's going to look like. Because a lot of people look at me and go, Bob, this is great. We have a million plans. We have all of these things we're implementing. We have all these consultants coming in. But what is it really, really going to look like? So I don't want to give away my presentation for next week, but I did want to just let you know that there is sort of a part 2 to this that's going to be coming as soon as next week. And with that, I'll turn it over to the consultants. And did you want to speak first?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. It's my privilege this evening to welcome our partners with MKSK back before you today to discuss the Highway 9 Windward Parkway Strategic Master Plan. At the outset, I would just like to extend our heartfelt appreciation to our partners at MKSK and also True North and the City of Alpharetta. Together, we were able to work to establish this visionary document that we'll be discussing this evening to enhance the community's vitality and create a blueprint to improve infrastructure and ensure thoughtful yet sustainable growth for the future. Through a series of community engagement efforts, we've distilled the essence of what residents envision for their city. Through public meetings, workshops, and a community survey, we've listened to the voices of the residents. And by revitalizing the Highway 9 Windward Parkway corridor, we're not only working to enhance the aesthetic appeal that Bob mentioned in the plan to come, but we're also looking at the functionality of the district and fostering an environment that's ripe for economic development and revitalization. Luis tonight will review the project timeline in greater detail and expand upon the engagement that took place in Milton. And then Ben will discuss the key takeaways, which highlight a community deeply invested in sustainability and accessibility with a focus on amenities within our built environment to create opportunities for future investment. So with that, I will turn it over to Luis.
Thank you, Anita and Bob. Good evening. My name is Luis Calvo. I'm an urban planner with MKSK. It's a pleasure to see you all again this evening. Thank you all for giving us the time to share some of the key findings of this plan and for your time this evening. This plan, like Anita and Bob mentioned, is a collaboration between True North 400, City of Alpharetta, and of course, City of Milton. I am here with my colleague Ben Kern, who will introduce himself when he speaks later. We are representing a larger team composed of MKSK, which is a planning and design firm based here out of Atlanta, and Ben in Chattanooga. And our partners, Development Strategies, which is a market strategy firm and has been working alongside this for the entire process. The Windward and Highway 9 strategic plan. I'm sorry,
Yeah, it's
can you all
coming
still
out.
see? Okay. As you can see in the study area, this focuses on both corridors of Windward Parkway and Highway 9, but it's more holistic than just those two corridors. The greater study area really looks at the whole boundary that really consolidates along these two key arteries. It identifies investments in mobility, transportation, green space, and placemaking, really focusing on the quality of space, of public space and right-of-way in this study area, and really trying to understand its existing competitiveness and looking to the future. And like Bob referenced, it sets a great foundation for future planning studies looking at the Deerfield area with more detail. This project launched in March of last year. We have been having several touch points with the community. I will share a little bit more about what we've learned with the community in each of these meetings and through each of these methods. We've had 2 community meetings. We've had online surveys. We've had a workshop with you all. We've met with City of Alpharetta and City of Milton staff throughout the process. And we're very excited to share some of the key findings today. In addition, this project has been led from a project management team composed of the consultant team and represented by City of Milton staff attending biweekly meetings. On our engagement, we've had 2 community meetings, the first of which occurred at the CID's, True North 400's offices, and then a second at the Windward Parkway Hilton. These 2 meetings had about 90 people in attendance. Recognizing that these meetings focused on residents and the study area includes a lot of commercial and retail areas and a lot of office, we also wanted to understand the perspective of employees in the area. So for that, we focused on an online survey, and I'll share a little bit about what we heard from them as well. We also had meetings with what we're calling a core group. This is a steering committee of community leaders. And then we also had meetings like the workshop with you all, presentations to various boards, and then we did staff meetings and site visits. The core group, like I mentioned, is a steering committee of, I believe, 19 individuals. We met with them throughout the process. This group was nominated or recommended to the team by City of Milton staff, True North 400 staff, and City of Alpharetta staff. This group helped identify key stakeholders for us to chat with. They established opportunities. They helped us kind of workshop some of the things that they were in top of their mind for the study area. They helped us amplify some of our engagement, share engagement materials, help distribute the online survey. And as we developed recommendations, they helped refine and provide feedback at key milestones in the process to help make sure that the recommendations that we're presenting resonated with the greater community. This is a group of business owners, residents, community leaders, people that were well connected and provided really great expertise. We also recognize that it's really important to have community engagement specific to each community. As a collaboration with 2 communities and a CID, we still want to make sure that we engage with Milton residents in a meaningful way. For that, we had the community meetings targeting residents in particular. Through this community meetings, which again attracted 90 attendees, we asked them where they live at the beginning of the meeting. We know from this exercise that the majority of the residents coming to these meetings were indeed City of Milton residents. We had a lot of great conversations with them. We also had the online survey targeted toward employees in the study area. And that we know that from those results, we had 16% of which lived in the 30004 zip code. But that survey, as targeted to employees, attracted about 41 zip codes, I believe. So quite a wide area of folks commuting into this study area. And of course, we had a workshop with you all at the kind of the midpoint of this process, had an opportunity to share some of our initial ideas and get some feedback. That workshop was instrumental in helping us refine some recommendations and move us toward this last phase of the process. The community meeting, like I mentioned, was more focused on resident engagement. People told us what they liked about the area. People told us, what they liked changed, the opportunities that they saw. We learned that from Milton residents, they told us that the Deerfield area felt underutilized. It lacked a sense of place. Perhaps it was there was a lot of residential. We know from our own existing conditions analysis that it contains a lot of Milton's residential. But when we asked them about how they felt about it tomorrow, what is the vision for it? They talked about a more connected Deerfield area. They talked about an area that felt more like a neighborhood. On the Highway 9 side, people said that it was a mixed bag. It was a little bit too car dependent, and it needed a little bit of a refresh and beautification. Keep in mind, of course, this meeting happened in the midst of a construction for Highway 9, so that also influences activities a little bit. But people saw the growth happening in the area, and they said there's a lot of potential and opportunity. On the second meeting, we shared a little bit about the 4 ideas that my colleague Ben will share later today. Had an opportunity to refine those ideas based on the engagement. We also had an online survey. We had 808 responses between May and June. The way that we distributed the online survey was that we identified key stakeholders that had email lists to employees in the study area. So, people at large companies, this study area has, some of the top 10 employees for both of the cities. So a lot of great opportunity to reach out to these employees. We learned a lot from the 808 responses. People, about 57% of them are in a hybrid working arrangement. And we know that about 40% were already fully on site. And only 4% were fully remote. So we know that people are coming into the study area. However, those that are coming into the study area feel that their experience in it is quite challenged by traffic, by the fact that they can only have the choice of driving a car. They'd like to have more spaces in there for recreation, more things to do. Not necessarily things for lunch. They felt like lunch there was something that they normally do, but things for dinner and after work was something that they like to see, especially because places like downtown Alpharetta or Avalon were more competitive and were more likely to be the destination because it had more of a sense of place. From all of this engagement, hundreds of conversations, great quotes and things that we learned throughout the process. We really wanted to distill it into 5 key takeaways. And the 5 key takeaways became the foundation for the 4 ideas that my colleague will share with us. Those 5 key takeaways include improving mobility. That is first and foremost, and that was one of the top things that we heard throughout. Congestion and traffic really impact quality of life, and people told us that it really impacts their decision to come into the office and really influences a lot of how they experience the area. People told us that they needed more parks and open space. There's a lot of great open space and recreation assets in the study area, including the Big Creek Greenway. People see the value of that and wanted more of those spaces that were well connected. We also heard, like I mentioned in the Deerfield area in particular, that it lacked authentic and local experiences. That there was a lack of sense of place, that it felt a little bit like anywhere. Unlike this area that we're in here right now, Crabapple, where it feels like a lovely sense of place, the Deerfield area and some of the Highway 9 and Windward areas felt like they could be anywhere. People told us that they like to see more authenticity to it. We also were told that some of the key roadways, the things that bring a sense of identity to the area, Windward and Highway 9, as much as they connect the district, they also divide the district. They provide these barriers to walkability and bikeability that people would like to see improved. We talked to some residents at the community meeting here in Milton who told us that they like to bike to the Big Creek Greenway. So I asked them, we had a conversation, we looked at a map, how do you get there? There's a lot of decision making, wiggling their way through the study area, getting from the Milton neighborhoods to the Big Creek Greenway. A lot of decisions that resident said didn't feel safe. And lastly, the quality of the built environment and the amenities influence working arrangements. The big elephant in the room is that the study area has a lot of office space, and the office market and the competitiveness of traditional office space in suburban markets, as you all know, is rapidly changing. Through the community survey, the 808 responses that we got, about half of the respondents told us that improvements to the built environment, to the streets, trails, green spaces, that would influence the decision to come back into the office. Half of respondents is a pretty big number. That's a lot of folks that can be motivated. We saw a lot of opportunity and encouragement from that. Before I pass it on to my colleague Ben to talk about some of the ideas in the plan, I wanted to pause to see if you all had any questions about the engagement or the process.
Colleagues, anybody?
I had one quick question. Do y'all engage much with the large employers like Fiserv and some of those that have a number of folks, whether it's Global Payments, Fiserv, IHG, some of the larger employers, not just the employees, but the employers themselves to see what they would like to see happen?
We had a stakeholder roundtable, including some employees in the area. I don't have the list in front of me of all the employees we talked to, but we did talk to some of them. Later on in the process, we talked to some key property owners, especially those impacted by some of the ideas in the plan, to get their feedback.
Okay. I just know there's a number of employers up there. Most of them are my clients, and they're all, wanting their employees back in the office. And so they're motivated to have them there. Also, I would think they would have some good input or asks of us, maybe even ways they could help us.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of discussion about amenitizing the office campuses. I mean, I know that we have some ideas as part of this plan, but the amenitizing of the campus can only go so far in a contained space. We also want to connect it to the larger area, and that's something that we heard across the board.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll pass it on to my colleague.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. And Mayor Pro Tem, Council, it's a pleasure to be here. I am Ben Kern. I'm also a planner with MKSK, and pleased to get into some of the ideas that sprouted forth from the takeaways that Luis just went over. So when you look at what we heard and then what we wanted to do with it, 4 big ideas emerged. And the very first one, foundational to this plan, is the connecting the dots, and that's the whole mobility aspect. We heard time and time again that was the key to many people's experience of the area, and so anything that could be done to enhance that experience would pay dividends in a lot of ways. Serenity and amenity, as you mentioned, Councilman Henny, this is a big one, that the office space utilization. Using aggregated cell data, we found that there's about half the utilization of that study area on a particular workday that there was in 2019. So you have about half the boots on the ground in a given day, about half the dollars being spent at for lunch in the district, supporting businesses and whatnot. So whatever could be done to envision the workplace of the future and what people want. What is that going to look like 10 years down the road, and what are the infrastructure investments that are not easy to make overnight that we need to be thinking about now. Ales to Trails touches on placemaking and just the idea of what's a really authentic experience. And we found out that this district is great for utilitarian needs, errands, whatnot, but the experience that really draws you to a sense of place and just ignites a feeling of being somewhere cohesive was really resonant. And we have some strategies building off of that idea. And then lastly, real estate positioning. For both cities, this is a huge area for the tax base. It's right on the spine of 400. So positioning real estate, whether it's office, commercial, residential, all of it is really important to see how we can position it for the best value going forward. In terms of the mobility and connecting the dots, I know there's a lot of lines here on the study area map. Green is showing a really robust trail network that we understand this would be years and potentially decades in the making, but with the Big Creek Greenway, what's happening on Highway 9, what Milton's doing to connect to the Big Creek Greenway, you have some really significant spines that go largely through the periphery of the district, with the exception of down Webb Road, but really looking at how to create a redundant network where people have options for mobility. And one of the big things here is just giving people more than one option to get around. With roadways, you see a number on each side of 400. All of them that are shown here are not particularly long, but we think they can have a huge impact on just giving drivers options, knowing that we're not just advocating for pedestrian mobility, but we want to also increase the experience in a vehicle. So some of these can take a lot of pressure off the main arterials that everyone kind of coalesces on today, and has an is potential to also create development sites that are really attractive and bring in more for the investment. When we think about Windward Parkway, obviously this is the key east-west spine throughout the corridor or the larger district. While we can't necessarily change the function on a day-to-day basis, we can think about the feel and certain things like meadow grasses and pedestrian scaled lighting, and even increasing the tree canopy and buffer between roadway and where people might walk or bike could go a long way in just the overall aesthetic and feel and thus perception of the region. So this is just a visioning graphic and food for thought as we think about what the parkway may look like in the future. In terms of surrounding and amenity, connecting the office places, as Luis mentioned, there's going to be investment on site where within the four walls of a building, or even amenitizing areas surrounding a property. That's really important, but we wanted to think about how those things tie to a larger system. And the idea of a Camp Creek trail, there's a really beautiful floodplain that extends through much of the study area. There's the Big Creek that most people know about, but there's also the Camp Creek, which starts in Milton and goes and connects down near the golf course to Big Creek. And it's a wonderful opportunity to have another spur and even a new branding on an additional trail connection. The bottom left picture here is showing the corner of an office campus parking lot. We've seen a lot of those. There's a lot of space out there that's just surface parking, and what even taking a small slice of that and re-envisioning it and providing public access could look like and offer to not only the workers, but also residents who live nearby and crave access to green spaces, as was mentioned in the takeaways from engagement. When we think about the trails and the amenities, the big thing to point out here is not everything is a public investment. Some of the areas shown in purple are areas that we looked at that go through private property and would be a way for private investment to tie into a larger network and be part of it, but put in the monetary cost from the private side. So it's parsing it out and stratifying what a connected network could look like with different players and different investments made at key intersections and where public trailheads might make the most sense. For Ales to Trails, this is, again, the idea of a unique, authentic experience. If you look at the three things mentioned here, building on enduring assets, evolving assets, and building for people, think of them as almost a tripod where each leg is supporting the larger vision of a thriving district. Building on enduring assets is a place campaign oriented around two specific sites, very tangible within the study area, one in Alpharetta, one in Milton. And we think these can be the kind of almost epicenters of investment and lead to an evolving, building around evolving assets. And that's more of the communications and the coordination between cities and organizations, and then ultimately building for people. And that's the experiences and the programming that when those things match up and the synergies between communication campaigns and what people want to do within a very defined physical space, we think that can be a really strong, vibrant setup for the district going forward. In terms of the place campaign, that the two sites that we see as big movers and almost epicenters of some of the realization of vibrant spaces in the future. There's a lake that many of y'all are aware of on Morris Road, and it's a greenfield site right now next to the Verizon campus, and that has a tremendous opportunity to be something really unique. We feel like it sits kind of between the residential portion of Deerfield, and it's quaint in the sense that it's removed from Highway 9 and Windward, so it almost has this feel of being removed from some of the hustle and bustle of the main corridors. And then it's a really significant water feature that people love water, and something designed well can have a reverberating effect on surrounding properties. And the access to it is great with multiple arterial roads surrounding it. So that's a site that gets us really excited. We're not trying to be overly prescriptive with the design here, but just to give ideas of what a developer might be able to take hold of and run with in a way that we think would be beneficial to surrounding properties as well. When we think of the real estate positioning, again, this is a huge area, and Milton stated that when you think about your future tax base and employment nodes, this is a place that it has to be done right, and it has to be thought out well. And so it is a big area. The entire study area is a little bit larger than the city of Decatur. So we're looking at a very big land area, and breaking up the different pods or pockets of the study area into almost place types was a helpful exercise to think through how to delineate different scales of future development. And again, it's just something that there's wiggle room within this, but this is more a perception of how these things work together in an overall ecosystem within the district. That leads to the last part of the plan. That's an implementation framework. And we really saw 4 different entities playing a big part in this. Obviously, capital projects. We heard about the CIE earlier, and there's no doubt that that's obviously one of the biggest movers in making key projects happen. We also think there are opportunities where public-private projects are possible, where a developer in the city, there's something in it for both, and some of those are delineated as making more sense to fall within that category. There's also, these plans always open up more things to study and plan for, and there's some enabling studies, and then also public policies where we just think this is something that is an idea that can be prioritized as a community and just reminded in future work. So one exciting takeaway, I know this plan is very recent, but there is some momentum on a couple recommendations within it. There's Old Morris Road, which connects from close to where the lake is on Morris Road. There's a little cul-de-sac, a hotel right there, and it kind of ends behind the Cracker Barrel. The ARC has some grant funding out now, and True North has even approved, their board has approved money to pursue a matching grant with ARC to study a connection along that road utilizing the right-of-way there, which would provide a much quicker and more enjoyable pedestrian connection between the heart of Deerfield and Windward Parkway, and ultimately under the bridge of 400 as well. So we wanted to bring that before you and just gauge any feedback on that particular project, knowing that that is an option and there's funding out there where Milton could be a sponsor city, and that there's willing partners to go in on that right now.
Can you go back to that one? Which ones were A, B, and C? It's hard to see the letters on there.
Yes. So A is the Old Morris connection. So it'd be coming down Old Morris Road between the lake and what currently dead ends in that roundabout behind Cracker Barrel. And you asked about B and C?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so C, I see C. C is Morris Road. That would be connecting where Morris Road currently dead ends at Deerfield,
Yep.
and punching that through to Windward and just providing a smaller block size and more access. And then B is just picking up on what's currently going on with the Cogburn Road, the extension, and the pedestrian connectivity down Cogburn over to Webb, ultimately to the Big Creek Greenway. So we wanted to work with staff to make sure we were showing current priorities and current investments going on in that one. So that one's obviously underway. But yeah, that concludes where I was going anyway. So any further questions, we're happy to answer. And
Thank you. Any other questions? Well done, both of you. Any public comment?
There are none.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Good work, thanks.
Exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Will the city clerk sound agenda item C?
C is Information Technology Strategic Plan Update. Our IT Director, Mr. Ashley Smith.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for allowing me to be here to present the direction of the IT Department, or Information Services Department, over the next 3 years. I'll be presenting the 2024 to 2026 Information Services Strategic Plan, and also provide an update on the city's overall technology goals that were established in the city strategic plan in 2021 to 2025. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and start with just a brief overview of just giving you some of the contents that we'll be going through and make it very quick from some of the technical jargon that we'll have. But if you have any questions during it, just stop me, let me know. From up north, I talk a little fast sometimes, so just kind of flag me down if you have any questions throughout the presentation. We'll go over our vision, our mission, and our principles and the planning horizon for the department over the next 3 years. We'll go through the technology goals that the city set forward in the 2021 to 2025 plan. We'll also go through a current state assessment, where we are to date as the IT IS department, and also what's the target state where we're hoping to get to with the next 3 years, as well as looking at a brief gap analysis and what things we need to address, as well as going through our overall goals, objectives, and initiatives, and just kind of show you the high-level roadmap of what we'll have. There will be another plan. There will be an actual combined plan that'll be produced from the IS department and will be out next month. So you all will hopefully get a chance to see that once we go through with city management to review that as well. So a couple things I want to highlight real quick is that our information services strategy is going to provide a holistic view of where our department will go over the next 3 years. It's going to demonstrate how we will align our resources, efforts, and the budget to support City of Milton strategic direction, goals, and in general, it is our roadmap. We're going to stick to this. We're going to follow it through, and we're going to try and execute everything on there. There may be some shifts, some changes based on priority and needs. As you know, tech, things change pretty rapidly. What might be something we're going to do today, we may throw it out in like 9 months. But what we want to do is really stick to the planned overall philosophy of how we want to deliver information services to the city as a whole. And one thing to note as far as an insight, everything that IS does is going to be supporting the city of Milton. So we realize that a list of projects isn't a strategy overall. What we really went through at this during this process was over the last 9 months was really sitting down, looking at what council put together in overall strategic plan for the city and seeing where information services can actually highlight some things and help bring some benefit. So even though there was a specific goal for the IS department, in the plan, we actually went through and identified a couple other ones, which you'll see in the further plan that we'll have that you'll be able to read later on. But we really took our time to dig into what do we feel would be the most beneficial things for the technology future of the city, not just on the internal staff, but facing the residents as well, and how can we provide good services in that way. So we went back and looked at our mission and our vision, and what we really saw is that we wanted to get some synergy between where Milton is going, the expectation for staff, and what do we need to do as a department to actually service the city the best we can. So our mission statement is the IS department will strive to ensure the city's technology is current, reliable, secure, while providing sound strategic direction. We want to make sure that whatever we suggest, whatever direction we go in is sound, it is rational, and we are not just jumping into the latest fad of something in tech. We also make sure that we really put in reliable pieces and solutions within the city and that everything is secure as much as we possibly can. Our vision, we want to be a trusted advisor and strategic business partner in enabling organizational excellence, growth, and support. We really want to put forward solutions that help the employees here at Milton, all the staff, do their job as best they can. So what can we do when we look at the police car setups? What can we do when we help with the fire setups, the new stations that come in? What can we do on expanding our GIS systems, security systems? Everything within the city, from the software to the infrastructure, has some type of IT impact. So what can we do to help further those things? So we looked at our guiding principles of the department and thought of what do we need to do day in and day out to be the best department we can be. Customers first, value focused, fit for purpose. Find things that work for Milton. It might not be the best, might be the best fit for Roswell, but it might not be the best fit for us. It might not be the best fit, might be a good fit for Milton based on our size, what we do, and how we're going to grow in the future. Data management integrity, technical standardization across all departments, security centric, which is really big, simplicity, ingenuity, and integration. Integration piece is really big piece for us because we want to make sure all the department solutions can talk to each other, or at least we can get the data out of everything in one place so we can make better, well-formed decisions on what we have within the systems that we have. So the 2021 to 2025 strategic plan that city put forward gave us a goal and some objectives that we were supposed to hit. Just to recap, the goal was enhance the effectiveness of the city's information technology to promote efficient operations and customer-oriented service delivery. Our objectives: increase the reliability of technology support to the organization, technology through service reporting, domain migration, and enhancement of a disaster recovery plan. Establish a plan to create an intranet for city employees by December 31st, 2021. Enhanced system for inventory management and lifecycle replacement by December 31st, 2021. And increase transparency through digital accessibility of city records, resources, and services. So our outcomes that we're supposed to achieve within this time period: increase in city staff satisfaction with technology tools, services, and measured through a customized work climate culture study to be conducted annually. So that has been completed. We're going to build on that this year by also doing a business vision survey, as well as a end user satisfaction survey. That business vision survey will go to all department heads down to management, middle management area, and then we'll be able to see what they feel is the direction that IT should take to help benefit their department. From an application standpoint, from a service standpoint, from planning, security, everything. It'll go through about 20 different domains that we'll have to go through and see how we can better gauge where we should put our investment in for IT infrastructure in the future. Complete domain migration to miltonga.gov by June 30th, 2021. That is done. Front facing, everything is miltonga.gov, but there's a straggler out there somewhere. Please help us find it and get rid of it. But we have been working really hard on that, and that has been completed. We have some legacy applications that we have to leave on our old internal domain for a little while, but we have plans to get all those out. But the overall public-facing major apps are all now on citymiltonga.gov. Earn a major IT award by December 31st, 2025. That is in progress. We are actually putting a list together now of some of the initiatives we'll have over this year and next year that we can try and apply for, maybe like the GovTech Award or even ICMA Innovation Awards as well. Complete an intranet plan by December 31st, 2021. That has been completed. The city has been using Vector Solutions, its LMS, learning management system, as an intranet. And we are actually moving a large part of the intranet solution to SharePoint. We have our last 3 departments that get moved over on Friday, and we will have everybody in the city on the new SharePoint intranet. Where we'll be able to house training videos and have a document repository and customized dashboards using solutions like Power BI and other things to help centralize our data and all of our important documents, electronic documents that we have outside of what's in Laserfish. Institute IT Glue for inventory management, lifecycle planning by December 31st, 2021. That has been completed, and we've actually enhanced that by implementing another solution called Asset Tiger, where we can actually go through and do depreciation amounts on all of our tech equipment, and also create surplus reports and get things done and disposed of in the proper ways that we need to. Establish a fully functioning Laserfish portal by December 31st, 2021. That has been completed, and we're going to expand that over the course of this year and really try and get as many things possible in a secure way out to the public that we can. GIS portal being available online, that has been completed, and we are still developing and doing more things to that. The My Milton, if you have not seen that, is a new app that was put out a couple months ago on the GIS portal. It is a much simpler way to view information about parcels within the city. If you're a resident here and you want to look up your house, you can see everything from the closest park to your council representation. You can see sewage information. You can see permit information. We're going to try and also build on it a little bit more with some other items. So in there, GIS has really been working on that. It's very simple to use. You don't have to turn on a bunch of layers. You literally go onto it, get a nice pop-up with images on there, and can scroll down and see all the pedigree information you would like to in one place.
What was it called?
The My Milton Info app. So if you go under the maps under the city's website, you can go there, and on that page, you'll see it kind of like dead center in the middle. And we're going to work with communications to highlight that a little bit more. That whole GIS page is going to get a facelift. So increase community satisfaction with the city's website as measured periodically through ICMA National Citizen Survey. That has been completed, and communications and us will continue to work on that as well. And the last one is one that communications and IT will work on, increasing the ratings on municipal website transparency. We're going to reset that and have a baseline for this year and continue to push forward on how to make that better. So where are we at today as an information services and IT department? So after going through assessment last spring and through the summertime, we landed at what Infotech research is kind of like a Gartner. We ended what they would call a trusted operator. That's where you can enable the business through applications and work orders. Basically, you get all the stuff you need to get done right and maybe a little bit more than that. But you know, where Milton wants to go and where we see ourselves going in the future is we want to, of course, grow, do better than just being in the middle area. So we had to go back and look at what is our job as IT, what areas do we support, and how are we going to get up the ladder over the next 3 years. So in that, we identified 10 functional areas that coincided with the COVID structure and Infotech's actual domains they have. We support applications, network support and operations, infrastructure and operations, security and risk. We do some of that in-house, and we also have some of that outsourced as well. Financial management. GIS is something that is not within that periodic table, which is unique to our IT department because we believe GIS and IT should go hand in hand because of the integration and how much we have to communicate on a pretty much daily basis. Strategy and governance. People and resources, PPM, which is project portfolio management, and then also projects and service planning and architecture, which has taken up a lot of my time over the last couple of months, actually. So our target in fiscal year 26, we are looking to be at the innovator level. That's shooting pretty high, but I think it's something we can do here, especially with the support staff and management. That's where in IT, information technology, is looked at as a competitive edge. People look at the tech that we have, the services and solutions we can provide, and they think, wow, how can we do our jobs better? And how does that end up in a better product out to the residents of the city? And also in some ways, how does it set Milton apart? How does our transparency portal make Milton shine as a city? How does our services we put online separate and help people make it attractive to do business here, possibly even? So what do we need to address? Things that we actually really need to address were pretty clear when I actually was going through interviews. I sat down with each of the department heads last spring and through the summertime, sat down with certain other key people in the city, and then looked over the past surveys we did and found a few key areas that we needed to focus on. We believe that focus on business applications, security, strategy, and governance will help us achieve the innovator status. So a lot of our projects are really going to be focusing on our business apps that rate it with the highest impact and the highest urgency. So this year, we have a ton of applications that are being upgraded across the city, everything from police over to public works to finance, to code enforcement. There's a lot. And a couple things that we're moving in-house to the cloud. So we know that business apps are really what's the lifeblood of the tech in the city. Our strategy and governance, coming up with things like this plan to help guide us going forward, because if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. Security was another one that was going to has a real urgency to it with a medium impact that we found. But there are simple things that we can do from a security standpoint that we can't to make sure the city is taking the right precautions and we're protected as much as we can be. Application management was another one, along with projects. Projects were one that kept in because the ability to execute and make sure they get done on time. So we feel like if we can focus on these areas, that we can actually get to that innovator status over the next 3 years. So in going through, we had to identify our goals, knowing where we want to get to. And one of the first things that came up was we need to focus on being a provider of reliable and progressive technology services. We really want to make sure that what we put in place is stable, but also that we're not resting on our laurels and we're just sitting in an old tech. Some people can get really comfortable in IT of running the same systems for years and they're not bringing any new enhancements. We want to make sure that we're actually being progressive. Don't need to be bleeding edge, but we need to make sure that we're not slowly getting caught up and being outdated. Because very quickly you can find yourself with a solution in place and you're thinking, wow, we should have planned to replace these things. So things like working with finance and Bernadette on doing our replacement cycles on all of our network hardware and all of our computers and everything else in applications has been a big thing to do. And we have those life cycles in place now. Enhance communication, collaboration, and access to information for staff and to citizens. We really want to focus on being able to make sure that we can have departments communicate very seamlessly across the different borders, to make sure there's no silos in there, but also collaboration, working on projects, simple things like educating people on how to use SharePoint and Teams, and how to get the most out of our cloud phone system and things like that, to where we make communication very easy for internal staff, but then also communication out to the residents and the businesses in Milton as well. So really focusing in on the website and the portals that we put up and getting that data out. And then lastly, continue to use security best practices and solutions. Really hunker down on our security, make sure we're going by what organizations like CISA, things that in Homeland Security tell us we need to do to make sure that we're as secure as we possibly can be. So with that, we identified 4 major objectives for our first goal. First objective is going to be improve internal city systems. Second one is going to be develop and implement a cloud strategy. Third part is going to be improve employee technology training, because we really realized that user adoption and training and prepping people for things is key. And if you can't get people to buy in and learn and grow with the tech, then it's just, you don't want to be the group that has the Ferrari that you're driving like a Yugo. And I might date myself by saying the Yugo, but my dad had one. They were horrible cars. Did not drive like a Ferrari. But I've seen some people with really good ERP solutions and really good applications and network gear, and they use them not to the full extent. And we really want to get the most out of what we have. So we're really going to be focusing on that piece and training everyone on it. Lastly, improve service delivery to end users and residents. Just how can we do a better job? Have that customer first mentality. For our second goal, we had 3 objectives to improve organizational communication, collaboration, access to information. The first one is focus on application management and utilization. We want to make sure that everybody's using the apps that are approved and that they know how to use them, and that we are monitoring if something's getting outdated and not actually being used as much. Nothing's worse than having a warranty for a solution that's just sitting there and people keep paying for it, and it's like, oh, nobody's used it in years, and that hasn't been done, which is great. So we want to keep that going forward. Second objective, implement technology to further internal collaboration and communication. Things like the new intranet, building dashboards and stuff, options, things like that. Those are going to be the solutions that will help us hit that. Lastly, increase transparency through digital accessibility to records, resources, and service. That actually is a ping off of the city's main strategic goal that you all set forward for IT, and really look at how can we build that digital portal for residents and for businesses to be able to get information in a really concise, direct manner. The last goal, first objective that we found was to update our current security plan. We are going to update that plan at the end of this year, and then also look to submit it to the CISA so we can apply for some Homeland Security funding as part of the local grant program this upcoming year. Some of our neighboring cities have gone after some, and I think 1 or 2 actually got it. So we're going to focus in pretty hard on that, because that will help out in financing some of the good security projects we could do. Second objective, improve backup and disaster recovery infrastructure in all of our process, running tabletops with Captain Baswell, Battalion Chief Baswell, and just making sure that on the IT side, we're doing things the way it should be done. Then the last thing is promote a zero trust security posture. Basically, we don't trust anybody who's plugged into our network or anybody having a remote into our network. So we have put tools in place currently and also in the future to make sure that we take that mindset and take it very seriously. So what does that look like over the next 3 years? Our roadmap looks like it does look like a lot, but honestly, some of it is going to be really easy things that we need to just sit down and do and stick to the plan. So one of the things I wanted to highlight within this list for the first goal is our parks, pedestrian trail traffic counting, something we work with Jen Young on, and we'll be looking at doing that over the next couple quarters. That's basically a solution that we found that will do cloud-based mapping of pedestrian traffic on trails, and it'll use our GIS maps, and we can real time see when people are walking on trails, how much time, the volume that they're getting, and everything else, which will help Parks and Rec out a lot in making decisions in the future. They even have a horse counter as well, which we found, which was pretty cool. The next one is Esri Fire Accreditation App Development. We've been working with fire staff, Chief Marietta and team over there in Murray about how to use an Esri app to handle their fire accreditation. So in the future, makes it a lot easier. They're streamlining it. We actually have another meeting on that in a few weeks. Park security cameras and access control, going through the evaluation of putting the cloud system for our current internal security system that we use for all of our buildings into the cloud, and architecting what does that look like, putting cameras in certain parks. That's part of a larger thing that goes into our last one, number 18, which is our network upgrades, because we are actually in a big build out right now. We are connecting all city buildings and all parks together via fiber, working with the ISP, and they're designed to ring, and it's actually, everything's been installed. We're waiting for cutover. We will have complete connectivity between all city buildings and all parks with 1 gig fiber that we'll be able to manage seamlessly between all the locations, and very excited about that. Makes my life a lot easier in managing and designing things, and I think it's be really good as far as what we can do in some of these remote places. So under our next goal, we have 3 initiatives that I want to highlight. SharePoint file server migration, like I said, that'll be done this weekend with the full portal launch in May for all employees. Mini-queue voting implementation, that directly affects you all because you will have iPads now to do votes from the council up there at the dais, and votes will be displayed here as well as over streaming, and that is a into Q3, beginning of Q4, start in implementation. So the My Milton info development, we're going to continue to build on that and build apps very similar to it to get information out very well. And you'll see a bunch of GIS stuff within this. We're really focusing a lot of stuff through maps. It's very easy for people to get through, and I think it's going to be a good way to display a lot of our info that we have within our systems. The last one on the security side, highlight the security monitoring solution and service. That is actually something we were a POC case for a company this past fall, in the summer and the fall, and we just gone live with this solution about a month now, and it is an AI-based security monitoring software. It basically monitors everything we do here on premise and in the cloud. And it also has a 24/7 security operations center, a SOC, where people actually look at our environment and they tell us if something looks wrong and they can act on ransomware. The AI is way faster than what I can do as a person. And it spots a ransomware attempt or something and it locks it down within a matter of seconds. And then we get an alert, and also the SOC gets an alert, and it's very good. Really happy that we have it, and I can sleep safer at night, a lot more sound at night. And then the last thing I want to highlight is that grant program, the state and local cybersecurity grant. That is something that we really want to focus on and try and apply for this upcoming year. So our next steps and how are we going to make sure we stick to this and keep the strategy fresh and going in the right direction. We have a schedule out here to kind of go through. We'll start with our touch points in January, work through the cycle. One of the big things to highlight is our business context discovery. We're going to actually go through and see if any new business things have changed within the city that IT needs to be aware of. So if a new service is being offered or new developments as far as, hey, we have another building that's coming online, or different things that are going to be happening in parks, whatever. We need to make sure we know that and what the possible IT impact is going to be and help be ahead of the curve as opposed to being reactive. And then, of course, we always submit our work plan at the end, right before the budget time, so we can make sure that our projects and our initiatives are aligned with the budget that we're submitting. So the only other thing I want to highlight on this slide is that you'll look down in that table. There's an annual meeting that's there. This is something new that we haven't done before. We're going to have an information services advisory panel. That's going to be with city staff. We're going to take the power users and the people that know the processes the best from each of the departments and actually have a group meeting. We'll do like a Microsoft Teams channel and get input throughout the year, but also have an overview of what successes we've had, how well we've done as a department, and then get input on what they know we need to look forward over the next year. And they also deal with the residents more than me and my staff. Some of the front-facing people like a JC or Elisa, or even Victoria over at the PD or Jennifer at Fire, they know things better than we would when people call in. So there are things that are web-based, things that systems don't handle stuff right. We need to hear from them, and we need to make sure that we're addressing it annually and being prepped going through in the coming years. So that's just an overview of the IT security, IT strategy for the next 3 years. Thank you for the time of being able to go through this. And if you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to take them.
Any questions or comments?
I've got a comment. Ashley, I'm going to boil this down. You presented a vision, an assessment to make fact-based decisions. You laid out your key initiatives, and you laid out a tactical plan with objectives and a roadmap. That is what good looks like. This builds confidence. In all my years in business, this is one of the better presentations I've ever seen. Just go execute it well, and boy, we are in a really good position from an IT perspective. Job well done. This was a great presentation.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ashley, I have a question. So at the end of the day, it's about security all the time.
Mhm.
How are we integrated with an outside partner that provides 24/7 surveillance?
Yes, okay. So we have multiple layers. So I'll talk on the internal side. Internally first, we have a solution. I don't normally throw the name of the solution, but we have a solution called Darktrace. And that solution is AI-based, and we actually manage that in-house day by day by day. They have what's called a proactive threat network, which is they have people that follow what they call a follow the sun philosophy, to where they have data centers that go as the sun is up. And they are actually monitoring what happens from the AI and the solution on premise and in the cloud. So that's the second level, is that group. We have a third level with our MSP, where they manage our antivirus that's on premise. And we also have an upgraded subscription with that with SentinelOne, which is another group that they manage and look at any ransomware issues that we have. And we're actually upping that with some changes we're going to make, and they will be monitoring our cloud environment as well for any our cloud Active Directory, like email logins and things like that. We've been doing that for a while and restricting it, but we always have people over our shoulder. So when we make internal changes, I go to our MSP and say, hey, can you just sign off on this and make sure I'm not making a change that's kind of not right? We also vet software. So things that are easy to vet, I'll do it myself. But if there's something to where it's a little bit more detailed, I will forward it to them and ask them, hey, can you do this? And we've also signed up with the CISA to do vulnerability scanning. So National Cybersecurity Infrastructure and Security Agency. And they basically handle that grant that we're talking about, but they are the notification system for local governments on if something is happening. So they are going to do our vulnerability scanning for us. And we also are now signed up with them to get alerts and everything else. So we have a multiple layer. That update to our security strategic plan is going to spell that out a lot more. And we've also developed a critical incident response plan as well on how will we handle cybersecurity issues with the steps, the protocols, and all that.
But you're confident we have all the outside resources?
Yeah. And if you see the amount of alerts I get from this system and some of the other ones, I'd rather be more informed than underinformed and blind to some things. So I don't mind that I get a bunch of things that come in every day, and they do as well, because I know, like, story, I was flying from Virginia and I got an alert, and PD was doing a class on cybersecurity for somebody, and somebody downloaded a browser that's considered a hacking tool. So I'm on the plane, I look, I see an alert come through on my watch because the text and everything is tied in. I'm like, what is this? I check. Oh, wow, what is going on here? I end up calling over to my staff. They call in. Within a couple minutes, with even that, I locked the guy's computer down within maybe 15 to 20 seconds of getting an alert of reading it, because, it's what you do when you get paranoid about this stuff. And locked his computer down. And one of my guys went over there and he's like, yeah, my internet's not working now. It's like, what, you download something? He's like, yeah, it's for a class. And we realized, oh, okay. So before I went to take off, I unlocked his computer and he was good to go at that point. We are extremely informed about a lot of stuff, but there's always room for improvement. So I will say that I think we are in a really good place, better than when we were this time last year, which wasn't bad, but I also think there's a lot of room for improvement as well.
All right, well, thank you. Anybody else? City Clerk, or is there any public comment?
There are none.
Mr. Smith? Thank you
Thanks,
very
Ashley.
much.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Will the city clerk sound agenda item D?
Mayor Pro Tem, our final item D is presentation of the Fire Station 45 site plan and renderings. our Fire Chief, Mr. Gabeman Musa, and Rob Del Ross. Our Rob.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem, council members, good evening. We're excited to be before you during this work session. We'd like to share, sort of unveil Station 45, some of the design features and sort of the story of how we got there. So we're going to talk about our vision, site plan, exterior elevations, rendering, schedule, and discussion with me. Also, we have our architect, Tracy Moss. We have Kurt from Cooper, and also Joey as well, one of the architect from the firm that's helping us design the station. So this is a picture of the site, in a sense, of Providence and Birmingham. This is an aerial view where the station will be located, the proposed site. And so when we started talking about the station, I wanted to reflect that Milton spirit in there. So I invited the team to go on a tour in Milton to see the different architectural features, the landscape, City Hall, Station 44. Also gave them a barn book, the Milton Barn Book, to find some ideas and some lines that are very unique and specific to Milton. So I wanted them to design a station that is part of the community, that doesn't stand out apart from the community. Most of the stations you see out there in some communities, they're so like brutal type, concrete or just brick. There are it's not inviting. So we wanted a station that, no matter how you look at it, because of the placement of the station, it sort of looks like there's a front door, that it's alive. So it's not just alive on the front entrance and then on the back, it doesn't look that way. So luckily with the meetings with Tracy, they were very gracious and creative to listen to some of my ideas. These are some of the areas, again, we toured a lot of Milton because I wanted them to see and get an idea what I was looking for in a design. So these are some also external sort of modern farm rural look that we looked at across the country. This is my initial napkin drawing. I also had another one, actually.
Need a bar for this?
No, I was at my office. But I also put it's not on here, a design of sort of the elevation of what the station should look like to kind of get them started. It's not included here. But what I wanted is a building that is a 50 to 60-year building. I wanted a building that has those beautiful features, but also low maintenance, because the worst thing you can do is you build a building that requires tons of maintenance, because it's a building that's used every day. It's used in a sense on a commercial level. So we talked about some of the furnishings, and Joey can show some of the lines, some of the colors as we get a little bit in depth into the station. But the station is going to be also, because we have outgrown our space at 44, we're putting some offices up there. So our community risk reduction will be moving to 45, as well as our battalion. We'll also have our CARES, Milton Fire CARES offices there. We'll have a clinic so citizens can go by there, whether it's for flu shots, for blood pressures, or get checked. We'll have a room that looks just like a doctor's office. So it's very professional, like an exam room. We also have a community room / our EOC, our backup EOC. It might become our main EOC, and it will be built to standards, but it will serve as a community room as well. We wanted a community space. The community can hold meetings there, just a community place. So we want it to be an inviting space, but also keeping in mind some of the features as far as firefighter cancer prevention, keeping that sort of like the hot zone from the warm zone down to the cold zone, and keeping those standards up. These are some of the initial renderings that Tracy put together and his team. Some of the layouts, but I think at the end they came back to my layout, right? So this shows when the station is complete, sort of like what it looks like from an aerial view. This is a view of the station. This is the site, and this is what I'll turn it over to Robert.
Thanks, Chief. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. I'm not going to do a whole bunch of talking for the next couple slides. I just kind of want to show you a lot of the same information that we provided to Design Review Board last week, elevations and renderings of the proposed facility and getting some feedback. So the slide you see on the screen today, this is a more detailed site plan showing you the footprint of the building, the general purpose access off of Birmingham Highway 372. This is where the public will enter and exit, coming in here and accessing the parking lot right here. Fire apparatus will be able to pull into the bays, and then this will be the exit onto Providence. This will be public safety only, with no access back to the parking lot. So the fire apparatus will have the ability to turn left onto Providence to access the roundabout, or turn right on Providence heading east. This is a current layout of the floor plan of the building. Bays here, bunk area, admin space with offices, a battalion area, and some storage in the bottom right. Exterior elevations, north and south, you see on the screen. East and west will be on the next page. If any of you would like further information on this, Joey was able to bring some material displays that we brought to Design Review Board. If you'd like to see more information on the exact colors or the exact materials that we're proposing on the site, pictures in the next coming slides will give color to the existing picture on the screen. These are the elevations from the west and from the east. An overhead shot, a rendering of what the building will look like. Providence is here. 372 is here. Same exterior elevations, just colored, so you can get the colors pop with the different materials that we're proposing. Same west and east shots, again with color. And now we're getting into some of the renderings, so you can see how the model lays out with our current building, some of the landscaping that we're thinking about, and rotating around the building so you can get a better idea of what the building will look like in the field. This is a back area with outdoor eating area. This is the front of the building looking from 372, with the storage area off to the right. This is a shot straight from 372 looking into the building where the fire trucks will pull in. This shot close from where the parking area is, kind of looking northeast, and another shot of the building there. So comments from DRB, pending issues where we are as of right now. DRB comments were pretty minor. They were pretty happy. They complimented the architects on the look of the building. We had 2 areas that we're going to be looking into and getting back to them next month. They asked us to investigate adding a couple of dormers to one side of the building to kind of break up a long roof line. That's something that we can do, but we're debating internally whether we're going to include them in the base package or whether we're going to add them based on the price that we get from the contractor. Believe it or not, dormers are rather expensive. They're about $10,000 each. So we're going to be looking into that as we fine tune some of our cost numbers moving forward over the next month. The other comment from DRB was to investigate the use of some evergreen, either trees or shrubs along the site. A lot of our plant types were the flowering trees that lose the leaves in the winter, and they wanted to investigate some pop, some green that will stay green all year long. AT&T relocation is another variable we're tracking. I hope to present a agenda item for you next week about that. We have a existing AT&T fiber that, believe it or not, runs right through the smack middle of the property, right underneath where our building was going to be. There is no way around it. We knew that we were going to have to be relocating it, but it took a couple of months to figure out what AT&T's plan is Yes, that will cost us to the tune of $100,000. But that is a pending issue that we're trying to work forward, get approved, get legal review on, and then schedule and get AT&T moving as quickly as possible so that they don't delay the construction of the building. Last part here, staff review, we have our arborist and our landscape architect and community development fine tuning the site plan you saw back here. We have a couple of comments related to trees that may not be in the ideal condition in the ideal location based on overhead utility lines. We're fine tuning that. We're looking into several of the tree type recommendations. Our arborist is of the opinion that dogwoods don't do the best when you're looking at direct sunlight all day long, as this site will be. So there's going to be some fine tuning on tree recommendations. There's also some fine tuning related to this area here around the parking lot. Initially, we were thinking about a small landscape garden area here at the corner of the building. We're considering expanding that into a little bit more of a pedestrian amenity, a little bit of a community amenity, a plaza, something like that here next to the parking lot. And lastly, the schedule. So I couldn't compliment our design team and our contracting team enough. Chief and I have put a very aggressive schedule on them, and they've met everything we've asked for up to this point. We are moving forward with this project very quickly. If all goes well, this will be the only time that you're able to guide the design and provide input into this before we are in front of you asking for amendment to start construction. We intend on starting permitting as far as internally, as far as the land disturbance and the building permits next month in May, which means we'll be getting our pricing in June. And again, if all goes well, I'll be bringing a change order to our contractor in July this year. That means we're starting construction in the summer and we'll be opening the building next summer. That's extremely fast for construction projects and public works and construction projects for the city in general. I do want to remind you one of other thing. As far as construction goes, the vehicle and the way we procured our contractor on this is a little bit different than what we normally do in government. Normally for public works projects, for large capital projects, we would design the plans. We would present those plans to the marketplace. We would get bids in, and per state law, we would award the construction contract to the lowest responsive bidder based on the marketplace that submits their bids. So we would submit the low bid. In this case, because it's a building, buildings are a little bit different than linear transportation projects. We're able to use a little bit different procurement method called CM at risk. What that means is we've already hired our contractor based on their qualifications, and provided they give us a fair price once the design is done, we are modifying their existing contract, giving them the construction, modifying their contract based on the price, and they are immediately able to move forward and start mobilization, start hiring their subcontractors and get underway much quicker than a standard 3-month government procurement for a standard design bid build project. That concludes my presentation. Open to any questions, any comments you might have.
Thank you. Bill, Jan?
Just a real quick question. I think it's to the east on Providence, so to the east of where the new fire station will be. From the aerial view, it still looks like there's plenty of buffer still in place before you to the single-family homes right there.
Oh, if you can see my cursor you can't see my cursor on the screen. The driveway on Providence and the single-family home to the east.
Yes.
So what we're planning on doing there right now, we're looking at some tree additions and some, if you can see my cursor up here, as well as installing likely a 4-board fence at the property line to kind of distinguish city property and where the driveway starts.
Okay.
As part of the review by the arborist, we're also looking at establishing some tree buffer in the area you see me circling on the screen in here. There is a significant tree buffer along this property line that we aren't disturbing.
Okay, great. Yeah, I can see that from the aerial picture. So I was just making sure a lot of that was staying in place.
I have a question. The color of the metal roof and the exterior of the building, what are those colors?
I got you right.
Joey's can answer.
I thought that
for
was
me.
very timely that you put that there. Mhm. You're going to go silver?
Yes, we had other options where we had like a black coated. But we incorporated that time was red barn elements. So that was the color code there.
And from a maintenance standpoint, that is the color that you might have to paint every.
What's the exterior of the building?
Wind spray. Off-white kind of color.
The one in the middle there?
Pure white, so it won't be really dark in sunlight.
All right, well, I think Councilmember Bearhoff and I would like to welcome you to our district. And it's been a great presentation, and thank you. That might not be my favorite color combination, so I might have to put in for a capital impact fee.
I do have one question. You said assuming they give a fair price, how is a fair price determined
So fair
without
price,
going
we're
to
able
market?
to look at different sites, comparable square footage, dollar per square foot, similar facilities that have been built around us in the past several years in order to kind of gauge that.
And we sort of have an idea because right now it's the price per square foot is actually less than what we paid to build Station 42. And that change order that Rob was talking about, that's within the budget that we've established. So it's not like we're going to ask for additional, it's within the budget.
It's less, but this is larger than 42, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
Isn't this larger than 42?
Yes, it's almost twice the size.
Yeah.
It's almost 12,000. So per square foot, as far as the price, yes.
Okay.
Chief, I had one question. 2 bays, is that enough capacity when you think about the future growth of Milton?
Yes.
Is 2 bays enough?
Yeah, I'll talk about that. So you'll see on one side of the building, there's 2 bays. On the other side, there's 3 bays. So that third bay is a small bay that's for the battalion, and it's a back in only. So they can come in, they back in. So that's for the battalion. So in Milton, the way we are as a city, based on call volume and deployment, the max we would deploy out of a station would be 2 units. So that's why we have 2 bays. So you have your main apparatus, could be an engine, a ladder based on the data and the analysis. The other bay would be for example, if we stood up another ambulance in the city, a rescue unit. Our plan is to move the rescue unit, which is the one ambulance we have in the city, to be there because it's centrally located. It can go anywhere in the city. So that's your 2 bays. And that's why we have that smaller bay for the battalion, which will free up another bay at 44.
Okay.
So in Milton, we would never run 2. We're not that busy to run 2, for example, 2 engines or an engine and ladder out of one house. You would see that more like in Atlanta. One of the stations in Sandy Springs is like that because they border Atlanta, so they run a lot of calls like that. But for us in Milton, based on our volume, 2 bays is adequate for that area.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comment?
We do not, ma'am.
All right, well, gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with no executive session, we are at adjournment. That concludes the regular meeting. Do I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Councilman, motion and Jacobus for the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good job, Phil.
Like you're going too slow.
Thank you. I should be from the north. Do I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All not in favor, sit here and enjoy it.